My name is Lilian Raji, president of the Lilian Raji Agency.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, my guest, I kid you not, I've been trying to have her on for over 3 years. She's a PR professional, queen of it, PR czar, and every other certification title that you can get. And she hit me up and said, Kellen, I will do your interview. I'm telling you, when I ask this person, and I don't ask people over and over, I don't have to, but God's timing is everything. So God did. She drove all the way from Miami to come up here, talk with me, to give us the game. Lilian, ¿qué pasó? How for you now? Witty and down. What's up? Thank you for coming
Well,
on.
after that introduction, oh my God, I hope I don't disappoint your listeners then with that kind of introduction. Am I allowed to curse? Because
you
I'm a
can
New
say
Yorker.
and be free as you
all
want to
right,
be.
perfect,
Say what you-
perfect.
yeah.
All right, yes, okay. So yeah, I hope I don't disappoint you guys. I'm not as good as he's making me sound. But yeah.
But you guys, that's Buttocks, and the links will be in the description for her website, because as a PR professional, especially in, like, let's just say our czar group, right? You have everybody saying what they're gonna do, how many this, that, but she has like luxury items. Your clients are some of the top, if not the top. And then when we hear, oh, there's racism in PR, oh, nobody will hire me because I'm black, oh, I'm short, I'm this, I'm thick, I'm beautiful, all they want to do is sleep with me. All that can be true in our crazy business, but you have somehow been able to have a steady business. Tell the people, how did you get started?
Um, I'm listening to what you're saying here. How did I get started? All the above actually measures with me. I've experienced all of the above. My thing is like, I love this line from Biggie. How do you figure your dreams can affect my cream? So whatever anybody's tried to do to keep me from going, I just like, oh yeah, those are your dreams, but yeah, you're not touching my cream. In terms of how I got started, let me think. Let me see if I can give you the abbreviated version. Good God. I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Spent almost my entire life, well, at the time, my entire life thinking I was going to be a lawyer. Was in college studying for my LSATs. I'm going to the long version. All right,
Now
let me fast forward.
do
You
that.
want the long version?
Yeah, because I did my LSAT too.
Yeah, I didn't get to the LSAT. So I was studying for my LSATs, and did you see the movie Devil's Advocate with Al
Yes.
Pacino? All right, yeah, you don't want to watch that while you're studying for your LSATs, because for whatever reason it fucked with me. And I've seen that movie like a million times since then. I to this day I don't know why it bothered me so much, but it bothered me, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to go to hell. Actually, I know why it bothered me. I saw myself in a Keanu Reeves character. And for those who haven't seen the movie, basically, and I'm sorry, spoiler alert. All right, just pause if you plan to see it. It's still a good movie, so you can see it. You should see it anyway. Keanu before the Matrix. Um, I saw myself in Keanu Reeves' character, which he was a hotshot lawyer, never lost a case. And he was in Florida, and he got scooped up by a New York firm to come to New York and to work for him. And during the course of, like, they gave him this huge case that, like, everybody wanted the case, but he got it. And during the course of it, he found out that his client is guilty. So he had to make a decision between whether or not he was going to fully defend the client or back away from the case. Now, backing away meant destroying his reputation, and he wasn't going to have that. So he went ahead and defended the client, got him off. The client, by the way, was fucking his stepdaughter and killed his wife, the stepdaughter's brother, and the housekeeper. So after he wins the case, we found out that Al Pacino is the devil, like literally the devil. And that completely fucked me up because I saw myself in Keanu Reeves' character. I was always very driven, and I could see myself like not wanting to choose between my reputation and what was right. So that kind of backed me away from going to law school. So I decided to go a different path. I started my first company, which was a modeling agency. Ran that for about 2 years. Realized how much I really hated models, but found I found something in the work I was doing with them because I was also putting together events. This is when I was in Atlanta at this point. I was putting together events, and I really enjoyed that. So I had to take a pause after I decided to shut down the modeling agency. I had to take a pause and try and figure out, all right, what is it I want to do with my life? What do I like doing? And the biggest thing that follows me and it's following me now is that I'm a writer. I'm a great writer. So I decided I wanted to be a copywriter and at an ad agency. So I got an interview at the largest ad agency then in Atlanta. And I remember sitting with this woman, Elizabeth Brown. I still have her card because she's the one who sent me down this path. And then she's like, "So why do you want to be a copywriter?" So I started telling her, "Oh, yeah, no, I love writing, love doing this, but I also like putting together events, all the stuff I was doing with my modeling agency." I started telling her. She's like, "Lilian, it doesn't sound like you want to be a copywriter. It sounds like you want to be in PR." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I want to be a copywriter." And she's like, and then she's like, "Okay, tell me more." So I continued this line of thought. And she's like, "Lilian, honestly, it sounds like you want to be in PR." And I'm like, "No, are you not listening to me? I said I want to be a copywriter." She's like, "All right, fine. You want to be a copywriter? I take it." I'm like, "Good. I won my case." And she's like, "All right, well, we'll call you." Um, literally as I was walking to my car from the interview, I said, "Huh, maybe I do want to be in PR." So then I started looking into PR, and then she was absolutely right. If it wasn't for Elizabeth Brown, I would not be where I am because she sent me down this path to me sitting down here with you now, Kellen, telling
Mhm.
my past life story.
And I want that to be key because a lot of people think they want to do PR, but they actually probably want to do copywriting or something else. And that's the crazy part. I mean, I started as a writer as well. I was writing in middle school, but starting in writing is how you get into PR because you
Yes.
get to learn everybody and this newspaper, that magazine, and everything. But okay, you get into PR. How do you
Yes.
find your first gig or your first client?
I got an internship at at this boutique PR agency where everybody was blonde. Um, and I was there for 3 months as an intern. And after 3 months, they kept me on as freelance because I was doing so much more as an intern. So much so that the non-afro wearing melanin filled interns had the audacity to pull me into a room. I'm like, "We don't like the fact that they're giving you more work and blah, blah." I'm like, "Really? Honestly, the reason I'm getting more work than you is because I'm asking for the work." All
Mm,
right. So
yeah.
that's why you're not doing that. "Well, we think you should back. Why don't you ask for the work? Ask for more work." No, they didn't do that. Instead, they kept trying to sabotage me.
Okay.
So, but it doesn't matter because again, how do you figure that your dreams can affect my cream, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so the agency they hired me to be freelance for them for 3 months, and then at the time, I didn't want to stay with them because they were a very small agency. I wanted to work at Edelman. This is my Edelman story. And
Which is like one of the biggest PR
it,
companies
it,
in
it
the
is,
world, if you guys don't know.
yeah, it's the
Wagner or Elderman, pick
yeah,
one.
it's the biggest independently owned PR agency in the world. So all the bigger ones are public companies. Edelman is independently owned. So it was like Edelman is even now, like when I'm looking at stuff, looking for ideas, I'll go to their website and see what's going on because
Mhm.
you have to like set your goals high.
Yeah.
Um, so I got an interview at Edelman. I went through 3 rounds of interviews and I ended up not getting the job, which completely devastated me. It completely, completely devastated me. Um, so I said, okay, I need to find a job. And unfortunately, I got into PR just right after September 11th. And people who know this industry know like what's going on right now. There's a hiring freeze. We had that recession. So in the creative industries, it was hard to get a job in PR. And for people who are really want to do something, take my story. All right. I don't know how many interviews I went on. I used to sit there. Right now, I know all of Adobe Creative Suite and everything because I sat there when I was what, 24, 25. I learned all of the Adobe suites, so all the PR agencies in Atlanta and every single one. I sat there and I made my resume to look like their website page. So
Mhm.
I customized the copy in the introduction to what was written on their website. I'd customize it to that. So it was like let me be part of the. I don't know. I had to have made I want to say 100, but I don't think there's 100 agencies in Atlanta at the time anyway. Maybe 50 of these hand delivered all of these
Yeah.
consistently. And I got a couple of interviews that I messed up because I didn't know how to do interviews back then. Now I can do interviews. But I remember there's one of them. I want to say his name, but I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to get a freaking slander be hit with slander or libel. I can't remember which one's which. Anyway, whatever. So there was this one guy, big agency in Atlanta. He I got a call that they want to interview. They want to interview me, and I'm like, okay. Um, at this point, I did not know I had pneumonia. But I went in for the interview and he's like, I was just really impressed with this presentation that you sent over. And I just wanted to meet the person who did this presentation. He's like, I was looking for any comma splices, any this, any that. I didn't see a single one. And back then, and I guess we're gonna end up getting into it. Because I didn't realize it took me 20 years to realize the racial undertones of the conversation. Because back
Mm.
then I didn't realize it until now. 20 years later, I start looking back and like I know why you didn't hire me now. But he brought it because he was shocked that there was
Mhm.
nothing wrong with what I sent over.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he was surprised. It's like I wanted to meet the person who did this. And then but we don't have a job for you. And I left that interview and I end up in the emergency room. And that's when I found I had pneumonia. So it's just one of these things in my life that's like, wow, really? Okay, Mr. I'm not gonna say your name, but this person. Um, anyway, so fast forward, couldn't get a job in PR. God knows how many interviews I went to. I end up getting a job at Turner Watch Store. And I decided to start freelancing on my own. And my thinking was, all right, there's a hiring freeze in the industry. Let me freelance for a while. Let me get my experience. And by the time the hiring freeze lifts, I should be able to get a job in PR. What I didn't know then that I now know is that agencies don't like to hire you when you've been freelancing for too long because they believe you can't really fit into the culture.
Mhm.
And it really took years for me to fully understand that. So I was doing myself a disservice in terms of my original goal of try to go into an agency, but I was setting the foundation for me to have my own company, which was never, ever, ever my intention. And again, hindsight is 2020 because I realized like there are things in my childhood like I started little businesses when I was a child. Like I had a cooking business with a neighborhood kid when I was like 11, 12. That we used to bake cookies and pass it around. When I was 5, I used to find little things on the ground and knock door to door and sell it to people who gave it to me 5 cents for it. So in hindsight, I think the entrepreneur was always in me. But
Mhm.
for me, because all of us were told like life has to be this way, this is you go to school, you get a job, blah, blah, blah. And this is the way. So I wasn't thinking about what was in me. I was thinking about what I've been told. So it's taking years for me to realize that wow, I'm exactly on the path I was meant to be on. Um, so Turno Watch Store, I got a job at Turno. After 3 months' time, I became the number two highest grossing salesperson in the Atlanta store. I would have been number one. I am the number one honest salesperson at the Atlanta store because the number one person who is also Nigerian. Can
Mhm.
we talk about her for a second? I'm not going to say her name.
Go,
Not going to say her name. Not
yeah.
going to say her name. But she knows who she is. Um, and I have to say, I have to respect her. Don't hate the player, hate the game. She was good. She really was good. But I just saw through the shit. So anyway, I'm at Turno, like filling out my paperwork, and I mentioned I didn't have my Did I have my citizenship? No, I didn't. I didn't have my citizenship yet. So I have my green card. And my manager was like, "Oh, you're Nigerian." I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Oh, this woman is Nigerian too." Like, oh, so she comes in, and the woman, she's like, "You're Nigerian?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I was Miss Nigeria in 1984." And I'm like, "And I was 7." You know? So that's how our relationship started,
Yeah.
So like she was intimidating everybody and stealing their sales. And I'm like, I'm Nigerian like you, baby. Where we can go head to head. And we did. She was really happy when I left her. No. Because yeah, I made that woman crazy, but everybody was scared of her. But anyway, I would have been number one if it wasn't for her. I just want to clarify that. Um, Still freelancing while working at Turno, and so I got hired by Intercontinental Hotels Group for a project for they sponsored Elton John's oh God, what is it called? years. Well, Elton John Foundation, he has this thing that he works with Aid Atlanta, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And so Intercontinental hired me to do a small part of it. They had this raffle ticket sales that needed to be done, and I'm like, okay. So I took hold of it, and so my contact at Intercon, she was like, GCI Group is our agency of record. If you need to go to them, go to them. And in my mind, I didn't need to go to them because I end up in 6 weeks' time, I sold $10,000 in raffle ticket sales
Hmm.
based on the way that I decided to approach the sales. But I went to them to see if they can book Good Day Atlanta because at the time I'd never done it before and I doubted myself. And this is one of these lessons too that I would like to share with your audience. I'm sorry. Forgive me, I forgot to turn off my phone. Sorry, guys.
But this is your first like PR hired on your own type deal.
There were other little projects that I had before.
Mhm.
Like this jewelry designer called Mark Edge. My first, actually, it's hilarious now that I think about it. My first paying PR client, paid me $500 a month.
Okay.
Which
Yeah,
I'm
we've had
like,
those. Yeah.
Yeah, that was never. So Mark, I got Mark while still working at Turno.
Mhm.
And then and I networked my way. And yeah, let me back up a little bit and share all the core foundations and how I got to Intercontinental. I needed to prove myself. And that's the thing in life. You have to prove yourself. So I volunteered my time. I volunteered with all the major nonprofits, American Heart Association, American Cancer Society, Ted Turner's Captain Planet Foundation. Just kept volunteering my time, and people kept seeing the quality of my work, and
Mhm.
which is what brought me to Autumn at Intercontinental. Because I think it was the captain, it was the no, it was the Cancer Society event that I met her through. And then she saw the good work I did with that. And she's like, well, we have this thing with this Elton John Foundation thing coming up. We need some help with that. And that brought me in.
Mhm.
So I know, I feel like my mom has been watching Ari Melber. I don't know if you watch him. No, he has a show on MSNBC. He's a Jewish guy. Funny
Oh,
as
the
hell.
hip hop guy.
Yeah. So part of our conversation is going to be inspired by Ari because I'm going to just be dropping lyrics to you guys. All right, I know JC says "fuck you, pay me," right?
Mhm.
But sometimes when you're starting out, you have to think about the long term. All right, my eyes are always further down the line than right now. Yes, paying. Yes, I need money now, but if I can make it work another way, because I need to build my reputation first. And which is and we'll get to the way that you introduced me. I focus on building my reputation first. I focus on learning the skill set because you have to remember, I only worked 3 months at an agency before I started freelancing. So I don't have any agency experience.
Mhm.
I taught myself everything I know about PR. And this is before, like, I'm aging myself now.
What's your degree in?
Political science. Don't forget, I was going to be a lawyer.
That's mine too.
Yeah, I was going to be a lawyer. So back then we didn't have the internet like we have now. I kept going to conferences and PRSA events. I was buying books. I was reading stuff online. I was meeting with people, interviewing them, asking them, how do you do this? How do you do that? So I literally taught myself PR. And for a long time, I was very insecure about it because I didn't know what I didn't know. And I met this woman years later. She's like, it's good that you learned PR the way you did because that means you didn't learn any of the bad habits like agencies have. But the way that they bill for stuff, the way that they do the very little and bill you thousands of dollars for it.
Yeah.
So I didn't get any bad habits because I learned the pure form of PR that doesn't include like the way other people act. And I didn't know that,
Plus, you can teach PR because a lot of the agencies want to hire somebody who didn't do it, has a PR degree. They can teach you that. So
yeah. But the thing is, when you work at an agency, you get the billable hours, you get the fluff, you get the
awards. You get your telly and all that, good stuff. Yeah,
and they don't focus
which
on
you can
results.
buy.
Yeah, but they don't focus on results in the way that my agency focuses on results. So which is a perfect example. So we go back to this GCI group, and I bring them in to pitch the Good Day Atlanta. Sorry, Good Day Atlanta. They end up not getting Good Day Atlanta. All right, but again, I end up $10,000 in 6 weeks of raffle tickets. Without them, it worked. The reason I brought GCI Group in is I figured like I knew I didn't necessarily need them, but I figured this will be a way for me to introduce myself to them. So they'll see the quality of my work, and based on what I do for them, I can, I can get my way inside. So that
Mhm.
was my long game. Like, I don't need them, but I'm going to bring them in, let them see, let this be my introduction to them. And so it was, the work I did for Intercon was spectacular. They gave me 2 tickets to the dinner, to the fundraising dinner. And there are 2 bills. Bill Crane, and I won't mention the other Bill's last name because the other Bills want to have issue with. Bill Crane, and then the other Bill. Bill Crane was white. And he invited me to come sit at a table with them. So I'm like, oh, cool. This is great. Because, they were just impressed, and at the table they were talking me up. I'm like, wow, I'm honored. So fast forward 3 months, a friend I made at GCI group, she called me and she's like, Lilian, we have a position open. You should apply. I'm like, okay. So I called the other Bill, who was black.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Think I know where this is going.
and the other Bill said to me, oh, I should back up. Let me add one more thing. Before I got the job at Turno, I was unemployed for about 8 months. So I to this day, I can't tell you how I survived because, I'd already moved out my mom's house and I had a car note, and somehow or another I scraped. Oh, I know what I did. I sold my clothes. I forgot about that. I sold all the Gucci and the Louis and everything I had. That's how I survived. I forgot. Yeah. I blocked that whole period of my life out.
Yeah.
So me getting a job was like, oh my God, now like it's done. That period of suffering is done. So now fast forward to Bill. Bill, he turns around, he offers me an internship. And I'm like, but you've seen my work. I mean, why would you bring me in at this level when you see the quality of my work, And the internship it wasn't an internship that would guarantee an employment. It was an internship that would guarantee an internship.
Okay. Was it paid at least?
You know what? That's the thing. I never asked. I never asked because all I saw in my head was like 9 months of me trying to figure out how the fuck I was going to eat. And for some of the ladies out there, I went on some very horrible dates because I was hungry. Only dates though, only dates, because I was hungry because that was one of them. And I'm like, I don't want to go to any more bad dates, just because I need to eat. So all I could think about was like, I can't put myself back in that situation where I have no money coming in. And I didn't think to even ask if, and I think ultimately I was just insulted. Like you saw what I did. I did more than you guys did, and you want to offer me an internship. So that was like, ugh. And it hit me hard. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Just fuck it. I'm going to give up on PR. This is because again, this is after all the interviews I've been on, all this other shit. I was like, fuck it. I'm going to give up. So this was what, December of 2003 at this point. So I channeled my energy into being the best salesperson at Turno. And I was making a shit ton of money. And come July of 2004, I was in a deep depression. I was like really deeply depressed because I knew my heart was in PR, but I was letting all these people tell me no. I was letting all of them tell me that I can't do it. So I made a decision to myself because the depression was really like suicidal depression. I had to make a decision to myself. I said, look, I'm going to stay to Eternal through December, and then I'm going to start the new year off and just launch my own agency. Because if no one's going to give it to me, I'm going to have to give it to myself. So, and so I did that, and my gift to myself was I was going to quit 2 days before my birthday. That was going to be what I did. My birthday is December 30th. So December 27, 28. And I have to say I went out with a bang. And this is back in 2004. I did $780,000 in watch sales. $180,000 of that was the last month of December. Like I just blew it out, And so, December 28th comes. And I'm like, I just made a shit ton of money. I've just just blew everything out. And the voice, I'm like, I can't quit. I can't quit. I don't have another job lined up. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't quit right now. So I went in, I'm like, you know what? Let me just wait until I get something else lined up and then I'll quit. This is when Lee, my manager, my Lee is how will I describe? Think of the most soulless person that you've ever met that has no conscience, no rhyme, no reason. All she cares is about herself. And think of that person's problem mother, so just worse than that. So that's Lee. And she decides to pull me again. I just did $180,000 in 30 days of sales. She decides to pull me into office to yell about me about some God knows thing I did back in October, and she didn't yell about me at me about it then because of I'm like, Lee, just stop right there. I quit. And to this day, if she hadn't done that, if she hadn't brought me in to yell at me because she just needs to feel powerful over people, people like that, If she hadn't done that, God only, I might still be working at Turno now,
Okay.
Because I tend to like see life, like all these little people that changed the direction that I thought was going. Again, starting with that Elizabeth Brown. And actually, there was a person before Elizabeth, but we're not going to tell that story. I would need some of those cocktails you were trying to get me to tell that story. We're not telling that story. But there's
next
always
time, y'all. Next time.
Yeah. There's always these little people that have been in my life that all they've done in my life is change my direction into a better course than what I thought I should be on.
Mm-hmm.
And and for me, I see that day with Lee, like I really was not going to quit. But then she starts yelling at me about some fucking shit. Like, I just did 100. Fuck you, bitch. I quit. So that's how I got into luxury. Turno is how I got into luxury.
Okay.
I'm talking. So do you have any questions?
No. I want you to tell the story. I want you to tell the story because you get into luxury, and I don't hear anything about entertainment as far as like I was with Ludacris because you're in Atlanta, or I was with that person. So
I have those stories fall under my modeling agency.
Okay, so you had that piece, and you were like, "Let me run and get away from all that."
I know things about Lil Jon that I'm not gonna say.
Yeah, no, we don't. Lil Jon be building schools in Africa. We don't want to say too much.
We're not gonna talk about those parties back with the Spelman girls in Morehouse and all that because I'm a Clark Atlanta girl. So we're
Gotcha.
And I actually Shaka was I'm not going to say he's a good friend, but he was a very good acquaintance.
Okay.
Which my heart goes out to wherever the hell's going on with his life right now. But I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him in 20 years. But yeah, I do have those stories.
Okay, so you had that, and then you get into the luxury.
Yeah.
Tell the people though, because the hardest part for someone to do their own business, no matter what they do, but especially in PR, is how do I price myself? You talk about $500. I remember an artist putting $50 in my mailbox when we had our house in Lubbock, and he was like, "I'm gonna get the rest to you," but and you're like, "Dude, Christian artist at that," so you're like, really doing some good works. I'm gonna get you the rest. But talk about, how did you price yourself being young, being vibrant, coming from the entertainment world where you see people wasting more money on a car and a watch than they do on their team?
How did I price myself? I'm trying to think who came after Mark. That other crazy woman, Bacana Jewelry. How much did I charge her? I don't remember. I think it was like 800, maybe 1,000. Like all the little clients I had, I can't even tell you because they're just like, I would never take that money now. So I just can't think. I can tell you how I got to where I am now, price wise. And that was, I'm trying to think. I'm really trying to think.
Because the money's big, y'all.
Yeah, the thing with how I price myself is I went with market rates.
Okay.
So, all right. You know what? Let's back up. Let me pick up my story and then I will get into that as I'm telling my story.
Okay.
Left her no. I called a guy named Buddy. He was a sales rep for a watch brand called Dubé and Child and Brown. And I love Buddy and rest in peace, is no longer with us. I was the number one sales rep for salesperson for Dubé and Child and Brown in all of the Turnos across the country. I sold more Dubé and Child and Brown watches than anybody else in the country at Turno. So I called Buddy. I'm like, "Hey, Buddy, yo, I'm leaving Turno. I'm setting my own PR agency. You're gonna have to find somebody else to sell your watches." And he's like, "You're starting a PR agency. You know, our distributor, he's looking for a PR agency for to help us." And the distributor, he had 4 watch brands: Volna, Dubé and Child and Brown, Aquanatic, and Clerk. He's like, come meet Ken, and let's see what can happen. So I was scrambling and scraping in Atlanta for piddles of money, which I can't even. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I honestly don't fucking remember. All right. I remember Mark Edge because he was with my first paying client at $500, and then after that, I just don't fucking remember what the others paid me. Um, but end up in New York to meet with Ken at and he owned PK Time Group, the four watch brands. And I would not at this day and age, I would not work for what I work for then,
Mhm.
now. But for me, it was a lot of money.
Mhm.
And that is to represent four watch lines, he paid me $5,000 per month.
Mhm.
And so what ended up happening, Ken was fucking crazy. He's a fucking we don't have enough time for me just tell you the stories, but he's just fucking crazy. All right, let's just leave it at that. And one of the craziness about him is like he didn't believe that I could do the work in Atlanta. And I wasn't, it wasn't enough money for me to move to New York for that because I wasn't trying to live in a hole in the wall or something. Um, so he required me to fly to New York 1 week out of every month and sit in his office, bring my laptop, bring everything, and so he could watch me working.
Okay. Need to get that black magic, that black girl magic.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, something. I don't know what the fuck it was. Actually, there are other stories, but we'll leave that alone. Um,
I already know.
I'm doing a lot of censoring here. Um, the
Let it flow.
the benefit of what Ken did for
Mhm.
me is that made me start looking for clients outside of Atlanta
Mm.
because the agencies in Atlanta they charge for what I was for my size. You're looking at people charging $1,000 to $2,500, maybe 5,000. All
Mhm.
right. But because the cost of living in New York is higher than Atlanta, I could go out and ask for $5,000 and not have any problems
Mhm.
because it's for them, it was cheaper.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna back up and tell you one of my favorite stories. Because again, it goes into the little things that happen in life, right? Actually, this is since we've already talked about Edelman, this will be a good story to tell. Um, again, so set up shop. I get an email out of the blue, email or phone call, I can't remember. It's probably a phone call because this was back in 2000 something. And it's Cirque du Soleil.
Mm.
And they're coming back to Atlanta for the first time in I think it was like 10 years, and they wanted me to pitch to have the account. So I just went all out. I created this whole big pitch campaign, put everything together, my ideas and everything. And I end up not getting it. It was between me and one other agency. Care to guess what the other agency was?
Edelman.
Yes. I went up against Edelman.
Wow.
It was narrowed down between me and Edelman. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, Richard Edelman. I'm coming for you. Um, so the comms, CMO, she's like, I'm sorry, you were great, but Edelman just has a lot more resources than you have.
Duh.
So that's why we went with them. But you know what? Hit me up in I think it was November. Hit me up when we come to town in November. I'll give you tickets to the opening night.
Okay.
I said, okay. I'm going to stress this because I've had I did a consulting call with these two twin girls, jury lines. This just irritates me sometimes about Black Americans. I'm sorry. I'm digressing, but
Mm.
but I want to compare my story to their story. So they got a chance to meet with a buyer for Bloomingdale's for their jewelry line, and the buyer said she loved their stuff, gave the business card, and said to follow up. These girls lost the business card and they couldn't remember her name, didn't take notes or anything. I was doing consulting for them. I'm like, I can't believe that you lost this opportunity.
Mm.
And this is something that, and because in their mind, they didn't think they were going to get it. But how do you know you're going to get it if you don't try 1st?
Mhm.
All right. So back to November comes, you know what I did?
Mm.
I called that CMO
Mhm.
and she invited me out to her hotel. And then she gave me the tickets there. And I went out with my mom there. Sitting next to me is this guy. It's hilarious because he doesn't fucking remember me. He's like, this is another person that changed my life. And I met him like before I left Atlanta, maybe 2 or 3 years before I left Atlanta. And he does not remember me. I'm like, do you not understand what you did for my life? Like, I don't know who you are. I'm like, okay, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But this guy, he's a professor at Georgia Tech. We just started talking, and he's French professor. He's French, but he's a professor. And he's like, The French Trade Commission is coming to Atlanta for their annual trade mission, and I've been required to put together like speakers to focus on luxury to talk to them, and he's like, I don't know where to start,
Mhm.
and I'm like, well, I happen to be in luxury, you know,
Yeah.
and so he's like, oh, would you come out and speak? I'm like, hell yeah, and I brought another person with me at that event. So I came out to the French Trade Commission, spoke with them. I connected with a woman named Camille, which again, Camille's been on my mind, so I need to call her today. Connected with a woman named Camille, and she and I hit it off. Camille started inviting me to New York, because that's where their office is based, to do consulting for French companies that are coming to the U.S. market to do
Mhm.
to consult with them on the marketing communications. So 9 times out of 10, if they decide to come into the U.S., they end up hiring me for their PR,
Nice.
all from this one. I can trace all my clients all the way back to this chance meeting with this guy,
Mhm.
and with me following up, even further back, with me following up with the CMO of Cirque du Soleil and showing up. All
Mhm.
right, because 90% of what has happened in my life is me showing up, not allowing the excuses to be in my way. Black, white, I don't give a fuck. I'm coming. You told me to follow up with you. I'm following up with you. Give me the damn tickets. And if you say no, that's fine. But at least I did my part.
Yeah.
Um, so from the relationship with Camille introduced me to Patricia Faber, who's been a godmother to me. She owns Aaron Faber Gallery out of New York. So she started hiring me for all of her events. With that, she works with a lot of different jewelry designers. They will hire me. She introduced me to the Quebec government delegation. They hired me for this huge ass project that they wrote. If you go on my website, you'll see they wrote this letter of endorsement, like, the Quebec like Lilian very much. So
Yeah.
because of what I did with them. So now back to your question in terms of pricing. So I started to price myself after Ken Grazi. I went down to 2,500, and that became my base. I tried to stay at 5,000, but I couldn't because I was trying to get this restaurant client came to me,
Mhm.
and so I got them at 2,500. Then because of Camille, I had one of my first French clients with on Paris. They came in, they were paying euros. At the time, euros was a lot more valuable than dollars. So for them, I said 3,000 US dollars. For them was like what, 2,500, 2,000 euros. They were fine. So once I got to the $2,500 mark, I never went below that again.
Mm.
In terms of where I am right now, I am about 3 times where what Ken was paying me right now. Um, and I tell people, like, they ask me, how did you get there? Well, I started adding more. Every time I got a new client, I would add an additional $1,000 until I got to where I am now. So it's always like, but again, I cannot stress this enough. I focused on doing really good work. Like, my reputation in my industry is solid. You hire Lillian when you want to get things done, and that's became my reputation. At the same time, I'm in this place now, as I'm older and I'm trying to reevaluate where I'm going with my company and what I want to do. I did sacrifice doing a lot of the networking I needed to continue growing. My company has grown up to this point 90% by referral,
Mm.
because again, I focused on doing good work. I didn't focus on the money initially. I focused on learning, getting my reputation out, and then doing good work and going above and beyond and doing what all the other agencies wouldn't do. I focused
Mhm.
on what I believe was right for the agent, right for my client, and not necessarily so much on the money. And because of that, I just continued growing. Um, the biggest client that came in was a couple of years ago with Watchbox. I started at 7,000 for them, and it went up to 10,000. I did my very best work with Watchbox. The amount, and there's a case study on my website, but the amount of press I got them, just based on where they were before me.
Mhm.
Yeah, they.
Let's talk about that because you guys, I'm gonna have to have a part 2, 3. I can
Oh
do
my
this
God,
every
am
day.
I talking too long?
No,
All
no, no.
right.
And we talk about euros, right? This euro ain't what it used to be, and neither
Yeah.
is the pound, but the pound is still better than. Um, Let me ask you, because you could do a great job for a client, but then they could still replace you 3 months, 6 months down the
And that's
line.
happened.
How do you mentally, prepare or even tell younger PR professionals just be ready to be replaced no matter what you do?
It's like you knew what happened, right? With Watchbox, it's like you knew what happened.
I try not to read minds. I use my powers for good, but it is what it is. We gotta get the
um,
game.
so Watchbox came to me from a very good friend, Randy Randolph, sweetheart. He used to be the CMO of Marquis Jets, and how I met him is another story. But yeah, Randy's a sweetheart. He introduced me to fucking Danny Govberg of he owned Govberg watches. And Danny came to me. It's funny. It was between me and all these big agencies, I swear. Between me and this other big agency in New York that handles a lot of the watch brands. And the difference how I got the business and they didn't is that I listened to Danny. I let Danny talk. He talked for 2 hours. And by the time he was done talking, he's like, okay, Lily, I'm going to hire you. Whereas the other agency in New York, they only gave him 30 minutes and they kicked him out. And then they know what kind of money that he had.
Mm-hmm.
So I was brought in to do the work of the marketing director. How do I say it? How do I talk about this without like getting myself blackballed?
Don't do that.
Yeah, I was brought in to do the work of the marketing director. And I did her job better than she did. And for that, she hated me. And I'm sure there are other color related reasons behind it as well. But nonetheless, despite all the obstacles she put in my way, I got shit done for them. Danny was, I didn't find out later on what had happened, actually. So there's a marketing director, and then there's Danny's assistant Tiffany, who is a sweetheart I love, but she's like she doesn't want to talk to anybody that had anything to do with Watchbox anymore. So if Tiffany, if you're listening, I would love to connect with you, but I understand like how traumatized you were by that experience. So the contract was initially for 7,000. 3 months in, I get a call from the marketing director. He's like, "Oh, Danny's not happy because there were no results." And that's the nature of PR. You need time to ramp up.
Yeah.
They had never gotten any press before. I'd gotten them interviews with my girl over at New York Times, and no article was written, nothing was done. So the marketing director, Danny's not happy. He wants to end the contract. I'm like, well, we're in the middle of a month. Can we just wait out the rest of the month? You've already paid me for the month. She's like, okay, fine, but but we're done. I said, okay. Very next day, my girl from the New York Times comes. Hey, Lilian, we want to do a photo shoot at Danny's office. What do we have to do? Can you arrange it?
Yeah.
So I called them back, and this again, marketing director, she tried to keep it from happening. And so I just went directly to, she was like, oh no, the place is a mess. New York Times calls, like, oh, the place, can they come next week?
You don't get to pick when the timing. It's God's
Yes.
perfect timing. Oprah comes, you got to say yes.
Yes. I went to Danny. These are some of the mistakes I made in that relationship that hindsight is 2020. I should have always dealt with Danny to begin with. But I kept dealing with the marketing director because I was scared. I was a little bit intimidated. I knew my work was good, but I always felt like, but am I really that good? I always doubted myself. And it's one of these things that I have to say, I'm getting to this place and I'll be 45 next month. The wisdom of age is amazing, especially after you turn 40, because you just stop giving a fuck. So all of this was before I turned 40. I think it was like 37 I was working with them.
You get to let your hair down.
Yeah. Well, you start seeing shit because I seriously doubted myself, and because I doubted myself, I pushed myself harder than anybody else. But it's also what built my reputation. So on one end, I can be like, oh my God, I burnt myself out, but at the same time, the sacrifices I made of myself is what got me to where I am now. So there's always I wish I didn't doubt myself so much, but then again, if I didn't doubt myself, I wouldn't push so hard either. So anyway, I picked up the phone and called Danny. I'm like, the marketing director is trying not to make this happen. He's like, well, fuck that. No, they're coming. Let them come. So they came, did the photo shoot. I get a call from the marketing director about a week after the photo shoot ended. Okay, Danny wants to keep going with you. So I don't know how much you know about the watch industry.
Not much.
Okay.
Not much.
There's
Give us the game.
There's a show. It's now gone, and now it's replaced with Watches and Wonders and blah blah blah. All this stuff. We don't have enough time for me to teach you about the watch industry. But there's a big trade show. There was a big trade show called Basel World that happened every year in March. where all the watch, everybody, Rolex had Rolex has actually like owned a permanent space there. Like you try to go to Switzerland, when it happens, you have to get hotels like in France, because you can't get a hotel in Switzerland. You know,
Gotcha.
it's the biggest watch show of the world, and it's where all the watch brands introduce their new collection. All right, first day of Basel World. Here comes the New York Times watch section. Who's on the cover but Danny Govberg? And who made that happen? Me. 4 times I got him into the New York Times. 4 times. Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, twice in Bloomberg, Reuters. Oh my God, name it, all of it. I got him in. Type of press they'd never gotten before, ever. So fast forward from them trying to fire me to Tiffany telling me what was up. So, and Danny is difficult. Ken was difficult. I've dealt with people in the watch industry who know these names. They know that these are like, if you can handle Ken and you can handle Danny, you are a tough person, you know?
Yeah.
So I've been dealing with like the people in the watch industry who are, to censor myself, let's just say difficult.
But you're a strong person. You have a
Yes.
strong personality. I'm sure there's people that, you know, but relationships are everything, so that you can handle those people, but also tell the people, especially again, young PR professionals who want to be like you, because they want to be with people like 7,000. I want some of that, right? They haven't seen that. Some of them haven't seen it in a year. Gosh, that's, you know, that's the reality. How much of getting the press for you is the relationships? You talk about you knew your friend, but I find that if you know enough people and if you went to the right, you know, events and circles, maybe school, it's like, hey, let me call so-and-so,
No.
and they'll throw you a bone.
No.
You don't get that type of love?
No, not at all.
They might be
Because
scared of you.
Don't forget, I was in Atlanta, not in New York. How did I meet Victoria? I probably met her through Camille. Or like I owe Camille. I need to give that girl a call. I need to call her. She sent me a card. She's like, last time I saw her, she had a baby and 1 child. She sent me a card. She has 6 kids now.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
so I need to give her a call. Right?
Yeah. Now, you might want to send a baby something, you know. Yeah.
No, I did. I sent the last 2 babies something. But yeah, no. Victoria has covered every single client I've ever had, and she's been wonderful. But all the other people, I was in Atlanta, and again, I avoid race politics as much as possible, and it's because I'm Nigerian. You know, we just don't look at our skin color. I just don't. I just do. You know, for me, I don't assume anybody's being racist. I just assume they're an asshole. You know, you have to call me a nigger before I'll call you racist. That's just the type of person I am. You know, I deal with people as they are. Like we began this conversation. You know, I treat you how you treat me. If you treat me well, you're gonna meet the nice Lilian. If you don't treat me well, you're gonna meet the fucking bitch that you didn't realize was there until you pressed wrong buttons.
Who is trained in the martial arts, just so y'all know.
Well, yeah, in samurai swords, yeah. But yeah, so for me, oh my God, I lost my train of thought. What was your question? Sorry.
Well, we were just talking about relationships and how you can get the press.
So I did not have those relationships because I was in Atlanta and I was trying to build. I was not trying. I was building my agency out of Atlanta, and all the press people are in New York. You know, occasionally I got to meet them, but they're really cliquey. So what I had to do was go back to how I began this conversation, which is I had to focus on the work. And so when you're pitching, like let's talk about the last article, the last New York Times article, because 3 of them were by Victoria, but the 4th was by somebody I'd never pitched before. And even Bloomberg was something I never pitched before. And I end up making really good friends with the journalist there who left and decided to go into yoga. So I no longer have that contact anymore. But the 4th one, because it's know that it's impossible to get the same publication multiple times in 1 year. It's unheard of. You have to have, at least not with the same author. But I was with Govberg for 3 years, so each year Victoria covered them because of me. But that 4th article came out after Victoria had already did an article. And that was me sitting with my client. And so anyway, so as I mentioned before, the nutcase Kenny Grazi had me going to his office, every month. I started to incorporate that into my business as well. So with Govberg, I was in Philadelphia 1 week out of every month too. And I started realizing, like, The thing with PR and the thing with press is you need to know your journalist. Like one of the people, like one of those oh my God, one of those conferences I went to early on in my career, I'll never forget what this reporter said. He always said, know your prey, know who you're pitching, know what they like to pitch. So that's what I focused on. I didn't focus on the relationships because I couldn't keep them. I wasn't in New York. I couldn't take people to lunch. I couldn't go to parties. I didn't have that luxury of being able to really network and schmooze my way because I was going back and forth in Atlanta and it cost me money every time I'm in New York. So I had to really focus on understanding what that writer focused on, that editor. So the last article.
Wait, before you go there,
Yeah.
you couldn't smooze them, but that's coming out of your money that you're getting, your retainer, or was there, some another pot where you could take people for that client? Would they give you money to take them out, or is that on your dime?
There are some clients that I did that with,
Mm-hmm.
but on a consistent. I'm talking about on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it consistently.
Oh,
The Vogue girls, I couldn't do it. Even though Talia was a sweetheart, she kept covering me, even though. Anyway, we all have
just trying to
stories.
teach people because
Yeah.
they'll be like, I got the 5,000. I'm going to take, 5 journalists to eat. You're not going to have your 5,000 profit. I mean, what you profit off 5,000 ain't what,
No, I wasn't doing that.
Okay.
There was one person I did that for, and I'm going to refrain from saying his name because he pissed me off. Maybe we'll get to that story. We'll see. We'll see.
We're going to do on part 2 because
yeah, you want me to drive back up here again?
Well, no, I'll come to you. I'll come. We can go do this right on the beach. We can do it anywhere.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So, I'm trying to remember his name. God, I have COVID brain because I had the original COVID strain. So sometimes things like lose me, but I'm trying to remember his name and it'll come to me. But anyway, for the last New York Times article that I got Watchbox, I would meet with the GovBurg team. I'd be in Philadelphia once a week, and I just interview all the senior executives and try and find stories. And one of the people there was telling me how they were treating watches like a commodity.
Mm.
And so this guy, Paul Sullivan, that's his name, he had a column in New York Times called Wealth Matters, where he teaches wealthy people like what to do with their money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pitched him. I'm like, have you heard the idea of use watches as a commodity? That you can buy a watch right now, hold on to it, and sell it for 2-3 times the price you got later on. And he loved that idea. So he took that idea. I had to put the story together for him. I had to go through GovBurg to talk to their clients and see if their clients were willing to come on the story and blah, blah, blah. But then it got done. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know Paul until I pitched him the story. So when it comes to like relationships, like I know a lot of agencies like to scream out, oh yeah, we have all these relationships. The reality is these relationships are not what gets you the story. All right. I love Victoria, my New York Times girl. She is amazing. And she's covered every single client of mine except one. Mm-hmm. All right. She's met with that client 3 different times because of me, but she could not get a story out of it. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's what I'm saying about the relationships aren't everything. All right. I will always pitch Victoria what makes sense for her. Obviously, if I'm dealing with a hotel client, I'm not going to pitch her pitch her hotel client because she covers watches. Mm-hmm. But the story has to make sense. The relationships are good, but the story also has to make sense for them. And people keep missing that. And a lot of agencies will pitch, oh yeah, we have this relationship there and there. Here, that. Yeah, I have relationships at almost every publication. But if you're not covering that particular person I have a relationship with, or your story does not fit what they're going to write about, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
This last client, I've been trying to get a story with Victoria with, it breaks my heart that it's not. I couldn't get it done, but I just couldn't get it done. But I did get something else done for them, but that's a different story.
Let me ask you, because of time-wise, and I got to
Yes.
get my signature question off.
Yeah.
I got to know, what is your community give back that you're doing or that you would like to do in the future?
My community give back?
Yeah.
I'm glad I can answer that question right now. I'm part of Leadership Miami. Right now, it's going to end in December 7th is the last day of Leadership Miami. So we've been working on this project for Patch of Heaven Sanctuary in Miami. And I have been pitching and getting coverage for them. And that is my current give back. Mm-hmm. I'm in an interesting place in my life right now with me I am refocusing my company to doing something a little bit different because I honestly I'm getting tired of the agency model. I'm actually tired of I'm tired of doing all I'm tired of pushing the amount that I pushed.
Mhm.
You asked me a question earlier, so let me come back to this. You
Mhm.
ask, can you what happens when you're replaced? Well, after everything I did for Watchbox, and the last thing I did for them, I pulled together an influencer event. We flew in all these influencers. It was great publicity, and I left there just really proud and really happy. And I remember I called the CMO. I was excited because another opportunity was coming for the Wall Street Journal. And
Mm.
I'm like, okay, I want to get you guys. And he's like, Lilian, I need to talk to you. It's like, Lilian, we're deciding to take our PR in house. I said, oh, okay. So let me back up a little bit. Danny Govberg and I got along great. I understood him very well. I knew how to talk to him. And I remember I had lined up an interview with him with WWD and I forgot Glossy magazine. And I went to Europe because that's how I de-stress is I travel. And I remember I got a call from Tiffany's assistant and he's like, Lillian, Danny doesn't want to go do the interview. I'm like, what? No, because the WWD interview, this was he had canceled the first time. It took me a year to get it rescheduled.
Mm.
So I'm like, this is not going to happen. Um, so I got on the phone with Danny and I'm like, Danny, when you hired me, you said you wanted A, B, C, D, and E, right? This is your end goal. In order for us to get to this end goal, you're gonna need to go do these interviews for me. And he's like, okay, all right. And he went. Tiffany called me back. Lillian, he said he's gonna go. I'm like, I know. Like, all right, let me close my doors. Like, okay. Like, girl, she was the only black person that worked there. Girl, Caroline has been stabbing you in the back this entire time. Oh shit, I said her name. Whatever. Fuck. All right. She's been stabbing you the back the entire time. When you got in at 7,000, because I went from 7,000 to 10,000, but but there was a break where I went down to 4,500. She said Caroline did that. Caroline was like, why are we paying her so much? Why are we doing this? Everything that you've been doing. And I realized Caroline had some problems, and I'm going to try not to, get myself sued by expanding on those problems. So I handled her with kid gloves. Sometimes when you meet people, you can see that something's not right with them.
Mhm.
So I handled her with kid gloves. I didn't realize, I thought she was sabotaging that her behavior that was sabotaging my work was psychologically on her. I didn't realize it was purposeful. So the entire time, yeah, she was sabotaging me. And Tiffany told me that. And once Tiffany told me that, remember what I said? I treat you like you treat me. Once Tiffany told me that, I cannot be fake. I can be professional, but I cannot be fake. So I stopped being kid gloves with her. And I started treating her like an adult. And she didn't like that.
Okay.
So fast forward to this call with the CMO, and I'm like, what do you mean you're taking your stuff in house with all the stuff I've pulled together, everything I've done for you? And then it finally came down to, he said to me, you made Caroline cry.
Oh, Karen, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen this before.
I'm very good with psychology.
Mhm.
So I used to do things like, so let me back up one huge step. I owe my getting $10,000 to Amanda, who was their COO. She's from South Africa. Love Amanda. Love Amanda. If you're listening, I love you, and you know that, because Caroline had tried to poison me to Amanda, and it was Tiffany, because when I started treating Caroline like an adult. Apparently I pissed off a whole bunch of people, and Tiffany was like, Lillian, everyone's mad at you. The way that you used that email you sent to Caroline, because it was direct. There was no sugarcoating. There was no hi. No, it was like, this is how an adult acts,
In
It's like,
hindsight, would you have wrote the same email to keep the client?
there's nothing I would have done differently.
Okay.
There was nothing in there are a couple of things I regret, but I see that those actions took me higher than they ever did. People like Caroline, and I've had many Carolines in my life, again, great Biggie Smalls. How do you figure that your dream's gonna affect my cream? You
Yeah.
know, Caroline did me a favor that I did not recognize at that time, and the CMO did me a favor I did not recognize at that time.
Mhm.
But Amanda, Tiffany was like, you need to meet with Amanda because everybody's upset, but meet with her in Florida. I was still living in Atlanta at the time. Meet with her in Miami. Don't meet with her in Philadelphia because Caroline's going to be trying to be in the meeting with you. So I came with my receipts. Kellen, I had book after I had a big binder of everything I've done to prove my case. She's like, you don't have to do that, Lilian. I know it's not you. I know it's Caroline. I'm going to put you at the $10,000 that you're requesting,
Mhm.
and you now report directly to the CMO. You never have to deal with Caroline again.
Mm.
So what ended up happening when she told me that, that's what I did. Caroline will call me, and I'm like, I've already given that information to CMO, but you don't need to know anything. I'm taking care of it.
Gotcha.
So that's what it became. And what I didn't know was happening that Tiffany later told me about is that Caroline, like there was one time I was working on a Wall Street Journal article, and Caroline was doing her best to sabotage, and I won't let her. So she started walking around the office. Lilian hates me. Lilian hates me. Anybody ask her anything? Lilian hates me. So like she was causing all this drama in Phil. I'm in Atlanta, so I don't know any of this,
Yeah.
but she was making their lives miserable because I was fucking with her psychologically. Like I'll do shit like, oh, yeah, when Amanda and I met in Miami last week, and she's like, and so to you that sounds innocent,
Mhm.
but to her it's like, what do you mean, Amanda? What would you do?
Yeah.
So I would do shit like that.
It's that schoolhouse stuff. You're fighting for the friendship, whatnot, and I'm a bigger friend, and I got you.
No, it's not that. It's because her nose was in everything. She used to read other people's emails. Like her nose. So for her, it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? So I knew that would mess with her because I knew what was like. I'm huge on psychological, like torture.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, I was a scrapper. I was a fighter, but now you go to jail for that shit. So you know what? Psychological, because I know she needs her nose and everything. So for her to hear that I met with Amanda without her, I knew it was gonna fuck with her.
Yeah.
So that's why I just dropped that into the conversation, and then so to you, you're like, what's wrong with that? But I knew how she thought.
Yeah.
So fast forward.
We can't fast forward too much. 'Cause I'm a man of my word, and I
Yeah.
got to get you out of here at a certain time.
Yes.
But I have to know because we can pick up right from there. Game overload when we are. If you say beach, wherever, I want to know. Have you started? Right? Not. I know you've already started writing the book. When can we get the book? When will it come? 2023.
I don't know if I don't know about a book about that.
Not about that, but just the what you want to write a book about, and you already know what it is because you've already started. It's damn near finished. You're just procrastinating. Like when I said, "Hey, let's do this interview." Kellen, who wants to hear about my life? Everybody.
Oh God. Yeah, my life is not that fascinating. I have stories, but yeah.
Yeah,
but
she needs
everybody
her
has
own
stories.
podcast too. You guys can bother her.
Everybody has stories. No, what I'm starting to do now, I'm actually going to turn back to writing. You mentioned you started writing middle school. I got my first writing award in 5th grade.
Mhm.
So writing is in me. I'm starting to move towards that. I'm moving out of the agency model into more consulting work.
Mhm.
Because that's where I was going. I was answering your question. What happens when you get let go after all the amazing fucking work that I did? Well, what happened after they let me go is I burnt out. I burned out for 2018. I'm grateful that the CMO fired me when he did, or let me go, or decided to pull everything in house, as they said it when they did, because a month later, my mind, if I had stayed with them, I think I probably would have died. Because I was pushing myself so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I burnt out. When I say I burnt out, I mean, I couldn't think about work. My brain would start hurting. Like I get a sharp pain in my head. So I spent 2018 not doing anything. So yes, you can do a great job. You can be the best. You can give them what they've never had before. You can still be let go. And when that happens, has nothing to do with you at all. This is something that needed to happen in my own life story, in my own journey. Because had I stayed with them at the rate that I was going, I'd probably be dead now because of how far. So the universe saw, and I'm the type of person that I will not quit. I don't give up. So the universe saw fit to say, you know what? She's not going to do it. Let me save her from herself. And so when that happens, learn from the experience, take what you can from everything, because that's what I do with my entire life. I look at everything that happened and I wonder why it happened, and I pull it together and I see the stories from it. And that's what I did for it. It was a year and a half before I started working again. The next client I got, I started with them at 9,000, went to 12,000, and went all the way up to 18,000 with them before I stopped working with them this year. So, and they came to me. I didn't even have to pitch them. We have a mutual friend. They wanted to know who did the PR for Watchbox, who got Watchbox for all this stuff. And my friend was like, Gary. I love Gary to death too. Can I just talk about Gary quickly? Because Gary's an anomaly to me, right? He's a fucking Trump supporter, but he has been my biggest backer in my career. But he's a fucking Trump supporter. So it's just like really, Gary, really? You know, 'cause it goes to show that you can't completely put people in a box, you know. And you know,
well, that depends how you look at a Trump supporter, because him and I are Irish twins, and Mar-a-Lago is just down the street from here.
God. Are you a Trump supporter too?
I am. I'm a George Carlin supporter. And so we get the government we deserve because most of the people are foolish, stupid, and don't even know the three branches of government. So they shouldn't be able to vote anyway, but it is what it is. But I've interned on the Hill and I've worked on campaigns. All politicians globally are all the same.
But Trump is not a politician, though.
Well, he is now. Now, once you become president, you become you're a politician.
All right, here's the thing. All right, because I used to argue with my sensei for my Japanese swordsmanship class. I have no problem with Republicans. I have a problem with Trump supporters. All right.
Okay.
I would not call myself a Democrat. If I call myself a Democrat, I'm more like in the middle between Democrat and Republican.
Yeah,
I'm more in the middle.
Like most of us.
Well, I tend to vote more Democrat, but you know, if a Republican said something that made sense to me, I'd vote for them. All right, but I have no problem with Republicans. I have problems with Trump supporters, and I love Gary, and it just boggles my mind because he's been my biggest supporter, white guy, been my biggest supporter ever, and so I'm trying to can't have these conversations. But anyway, it was Gary. It was Gary that this client went to. It was like, Gary's like, yeah, I know who did the PR for Watchbox. It's Lilian. So when I went to go meet with them, I didn't have to pitch. It was just a matter of let's make the numbers work, you know? And that's where I am right now. Let's make the numbers work. You know, I say I'm not doing the agency anymore. If somebody comes with the right numbers, I will do the agency model. But right now I'm really focusing on the consulting work, and I am going to start writing. I'm going to pick back up writing non-press releases.
Yes,
you know, I do have my column in National Jeweler magazine that I write monthly, which I just enjoy. I enjoy writing it, but I'm going to be doing more writing moving forward because we
need those African stories. You know, that we need those stories. You were talking about Black Americans, and somebody might say, Kelly, you better get on that Black American. Don't forget you got 2 passports. Yes, I know what I have. And residency.
I'm Nigerian. I'm Nigerian American. And if you're not born in Africa, I'm sorry. Yes, hate me, boo me now. All right. My friend from South Africa, she is white as the snow. All right. She is African American. Okay. I'm sorry. I have to be that bitch, but yes. All right.
That's going to be for another show. I'll book you for that show because I know what show I want to book you for.
What do you call my South African friend who's white as snow?
She's
African American.
It's what everybody, you can be a dog nowadays, so it's what you call yourself. Like Elon Musk, I guess, African American.
Exactly, he's African American.
Yeah.
So I am Nigerian American. Yeah. All right. So that's why I say Black American. I mean, you're American and you have melanin, like extra melanin, you know, beyond the Latin people.
What you find and what you said about all those people is it's really, you find your tribe. Seth Godin talks about it in all his 200 books, but especially the book Tribes. You find your tribes and you connect. And because I'm honest with my tribes and I can control the room, you guys have been blessed by the game. Please share this because I want her to come back. I want us to do this. We could do this weekly, bi-weekly, whatever you want to do. We could do it monthly because you got so many stories and I want them to share it. I want you to share it too with your people, and then we will start using our cups and she'll even go on and on. I want a Joe Rogan. Let's get the game while we can give it. My mother had passed from cancer. I know your mother is battling that right now. The doctors do not know everything. My wife is a physician. She's like, we do our best guess, right? And so God bless her. Jesus Christ name, for her health. She has many more years because my mother battled it for many
What did she
years.
have?
She had started with the breast. By the time she was done, it was in the head. It was everywhere.
Sorry.
But she said, I'm not going to work for you, Kellen. I love what I do. And she's like, don't mourn me too long because I will haunt you. So I just want to let you know, keep pushing with moms, but I got to cut it because you got a flight and everything else to catch. The helicopter I can hear on the roof, you guys. Make sure that you share this game. And if you want more, bother Lilian on all her social media and say, Kellen, do another one of those with Kellen. You guys, make sure you share it. Be blessed.
Are you tired of the rat race in America? Are you ready to visit the motherland to relax and rejuvenate? Are you ready to explore all that Africa has to offer? Then check out the brand new Diversified Game Academy course, Prepare for My First Trip to Africa. Are you worried about being able to afford the trip? We got you. We will show you how to travel either on a budget or as a baller. Learn how to stress the value of the USD. Did you know that 100 United States dollars is worth over 1,000 South African rand, or 10,000 Kenyan shillings, or 54,250 West African CFA? Are you worried about taking your kids? Get the game from Kellen Cash, a bona fide world traveler, having traveled to almost 20 countries, several of those in Africa. Get the game on taking your kids on their first trips. Learn how to find the best tickets, get the visas, and plan your own adventures in Africa. Don't let Eddie Murphy have all the fun. Plan your own coming to Africa trip starring you, produced by you, and featuring you. If you are ready for a life-changing experience, sign up for our course today, Diversified Game Academy. Get prepared and purchase at diversifiedgame.com.